This weekend, Super Bowl 49, the biggest football game in the world, will be played in Glendale, Arizona. The very first Super Bowl was played in 1967, but the sport itself has a much longer and storied history. In fact, it's a Boston group that's considered by many historians to be the first organized football club in the United States. They were known as the Oneida Football Club, and joining me now with more on their story is WGBH News reporter Edgar B. Herwick III. What's up, Edgar?
How you doing, Adam?
So who were these guys in the Oneida Football Club?
So the Oneida Football Club, this is the 1860s, and these are a group of largely pretty well-to-do Boston prep school guys, right? And if you think of them maybe as 19th century sports disruptors, they were a little bit of an innovators in the game of football. Let's have a look at them. We have a picture of them. This is them as older gentlemen. This is them on Boston Common. This plaque is on Boston Common. But they, like I said, prep school guys, and they wanted to really take these football games that were happening under various different rules and organize a group. So they organized themselves as an official football club. They played their games on Boston Common. Now these are pictures not of them, but early football clubs. Here's one from Harvard here. So you see, this is something like what they would have looked like at the time when they were playing football.
All right, now the game they played really did not resemble football as we know it today, right?
That's true. Let's start with the ball. We have an actual ball here. Historic New England has a ball, and this is it. You'll notice a couple things jump out at you when you see this. First of all, it doesn't look a lot like a football that we would know. It's more spherical. And the other thing you'll see here is that we have a very long history here in New England of deflating our footballs, at least 150 years, a tradition stretching back. But you can see it's a little bit square there. It's a lot larger than you would expect it to be. So totally different football. That's the first thing. Yeah.
Do you have any idea if that football was mass-produced or made by hand? Do you know?
So early footballs had been made by hands. That would have been an example of what started to be mass-produced footballs, which sort of helped to codify the rules. Now, this is the thing. The rules of football had not been set. And this is the same time period when soccer is being developed, which is called association football. Rugby was being developed, called rugby football. And what would become American football or gridiron football. All of this in the 1860s is happening at the same time. What's interesting is what they were playing here, the Oneida Football Club, was something called the Boston game. Here's Shira Gladstone from Historic New England describing what the Boston game was.
It was really a mix of all different things, a little bit of what we call soccer today and rugby, but it did not have all the rules and was not played the same way that football is today. It seemed like each area had a little bit of a different rules, and so here in Boston, especially on the Common, they played by certain rules that, again, they formalized when they formed the Oneida Football Club.
Before we leave this Oneida club, what rules were they playing by?
So the essential thing about the Boston game rules is that they had elements of soccer and elements of rugby at the same time. So there was some carrying of the ball and there was some kicking of the ball. And this is what really kind of set it apart and started the path to American football. But they scrummed rather than have like a line of scrimmage or snapping the ball. There's no forward pass yet. The forward pass wouldn't be instituted in football until the early 1900s, which is 40 years after this has happened.
And no four downs, right?
No four downs. The scoring was different. They didn't have 11 players on each side. There was something like 16 players on each side. The important thing here, and why this Oneida Football Club is very important, I think, is because this Boston game that they developed, these Boston rules that they were playing under, was adopted by Harvard University. Harvard University becomes a huge player in the development of true American football. The first official recognized American football game was between Princeton and Rutgers in 1869. Shortly thereafter, Harvard and Yale start playing each other, and colleges is really where the game is developed into the game that we know today. And the fact that Harvard was playing under these Boston rules really makes the Oneida Football Club an important piece of the puzzle.
Tell me briefly a little more about the museum where you saw this weird deflated football.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This is the Otis House in the West End, which is one of the 36-some properties that Historic New England runs all around New England. And this is in front of their library and archives. And it's meant to be, it's a small exhibition about sports in New England that's sort of a showcase of the kinds of things that they have in their library and archives. So their library and archives has 1 million+ items, a lot of photographs, ephemera, articles, just all kinds of stuff. And this is an example of some of that stuff. So if you go to see the Otis House, which you can do, I think, Wednesday through Sunday, take a public tour. While you're waiting for your tour to start, you can kind of go down the stairs and check out this little exhibition, including one of the oldest known American footballs that's still in existence.
Be honest with me, did you know this place existed?
I had no idea. I had no idea.
I never heard of it.
It's thanks to one of our viewers, listeners of the WGBH News Service who alerted us to this, and we went down to check it out. And like I said, small exhibition, but a neat little piece of history just buried there in Boston here, like many things are.
All right, Edgar, thanks.
Thank you, Adam.